ich bin immer noch auf dem DLD-Campus, hier mit David Hanson von Hanson Robotics. Er hat heute gesprochen zum Thema On the Future of Robotics and Ethics. So, first off, should robots have rights?
Well, I think that it's a good time for us to talk about it. Right now, robots certainly don't deserve rights. No robot is alive. However, if we think that robots are maybe going to become more and more alive with bio-inspired technology, artificial intelligence that may at some point be sentient, then we could think of them going through a kind of a childhood now, and in the same way that we might afford infants right, or even animals, we afford them a certain amount of rights, and we certainly should. We should probably give animals more rights than we do and respect nature more. We should probably start thinking about that fact. They could, potentially reach adulthood. Not, that every infant necessarily, not every living being is going to evolve to be the sort of contributing member of society that we would think deserves a full set of rights and privileges and responsibilities and freedoms and so forth. So I would suggest that at this stage we would start thinking of it more almost like a legal guardianship rather than rights. And yet, of course, it's speculative. We don't know if these machines are going to ever really deserve rights, but I think it's okay for us to ask these questions and maybe prepare. And if we err on the side of respecting the rights of living beings, it probably won't do humans any harm.
Also ich habe gefragt, ob Roboter Rechte haben sollen. Kam eine sehr ausführliche Antwort dazu. Also er sagt momentan nicht, aber wenn sich die Entwicklungen weiter fortführen, dann vielleicht schon. Wenn künstliche Intelligenz sich weiterentwickelt. Es haben ja auch zum Beispiel Babys schon Rechte, obwohl sie noch nicht völlig ausentwickelt sind. Und in so einer Art und Weise geht eben die Argumentation. Auch Tiere wurden mit genannt, also dass die auch Rechte haben sollten und dass man da eben schauen muss, was die Zukunft bringt. Comparing human beings, children or adults to robots, can you do it? Can robots feel right now?
Well, there's a field called affective computing, which is both trying to perceive human emotions and also creating cognitive frameworks that model emotions in a kind of crude way modeled after humans. And so these don't really feel emotions, certainly not the way that humans feel emotions. It may be that the right model could genuinely feel deep emotions. And so it's a hot field of research and development. We may have machines that feel emotions, even if it's analogous. So in the same way that let's say that a dog empathizes with people, and people can then have this sort of empathetic and compassionate relationship with an animal. They won't necessarily feel emotions in the same way that humans do, but you still can form a relationship, and you can respect their rights as a living being. And so this act of preparation for that potential, and it may be that today's technologies put in the right configuration really deserve those kinds of rights. Now, one thing from my experience, I mean, there's a difference between say respect for rights of all living beings and giving a robot the legal rights of a human being. These are two very different things. And the first one is at this stage a conceptual exercise. Now, what we found is that people do respond with a human-like demeanor. In a robot like Sophia, they respond ethically and with consideration. And that is not necessarily a bad thing, because if we're practicing consideration and respect towards living beings, then that practice can transfer to human-human interactions, and we should be treating all humans with respect. So just because we respect a robot doesn't necessarily mean we respect humans any less.
Ich habe gefragt, ob Roboter fühlen können, ob sie Gefühle haben, worauf die Antwort kam, dass es in die Richtung schon Versuche gibt, also dass da Dinge getan werden. Man kann natürlich nie sagen, ob sie dann auch so fühlen können wie Menschen, aber es ist ja zum Beispiel auch so, dass Hunde sich sehr stark zu einem Menschen hingezogen fühlen können. Aber das auch auf eine andere Art und Weise tun und wahrscheinlich auf eine andere Art und Weise wahrnehmen und fühlen als Menschen. Und so ist es eben bei den Robotern auch. Da gibt es dann eben viele Parameter, die da reinkommen und da muss man eben schauen. Last question, what does the future of robots or artificial intelligence look like? Will there be robot policemen or firemen or even perhaps doctors?
The future is unclear. Robots are growing as a practically deployed sector of the market. We see robots increasingly present in various areas of industry and therapy and consumer uptake in the home is on the rise. So we are seeing a lot more robots in the world, but for them to serve more broadly, we need more robust and adaptive robots. We need them to be increasingly generally intelligent, and so we need a lot of technology breakthroughs. Probably the best way to achieve these is to turn towards biology and to use bio-inspired technologies. And there are many kinds of bio-inspired technologies that are used in robots and artificial intelligence. Neural networks are bio-inspired. Computing itself is based on Boolean algebra, which was an attempt to formalize the logic of human thought. And Sophia's skin is a bio-inspired elastomer technology. There are many kinds of bio-inspired technologies, but we need a more holistic bio-inspired self-regulating system, a cybernetic system if we look to biology holistically, we start to look at the computational processes, these kind of neurobiological computational models, we can start to probably achieve smarter algorithms, but we need to also look at how to simplify these things. So there's some very exciting startups. One of my favorite collaborators and group of collaborators is this OpenCar group, which uses neural networks and symbolic artificial intelligence combined together. And there are a number of startups and universities that are combining these kinds of technologies to simulate a brain-like architecture, to create a kind of brain, artificial brain. But we probably shouldn't stop there. We think with our bodies. As organisms, there's the entirety of the evolutionary psychology. It's not just evolutionary neuroscience. The body and the brain are tightly entrained. We need to also simulate the endocrine system. We think with our hormones. We think with our gut. We literally think with our gut. We have the entire the central nervous system consists also of your brain stem. It consists of your spinal cord, all the central pattern generators. All of those things are tightly entrained with physiological processes of breathing, of your heart rate, and the entrainment between those and the skin, the motors, the muscles, the motor neurons. All of these things are related to this holistic embodiment as an organism. So modeling whole organisms is probably the best way forward for artificial intelligence. And so if we can achieve this, then we can have robots that can walk through our lives and understand us, and also be sympathetic when they when they're doing so. That that is a different direction than most AI and robotics researchers are going in. So there's a lot of focus these days in research and industry on simulating the brain. But we can't stop there. We have to also do the body.
Also ich habe gefragt, ob es in Zukunft auch Roboter, Feuerwehrmänner, Polizisten gibt oder vielleicht sogar Ärzte. Dann war die Antwort, es ist sehr schwer zu sagen, also wo die Reise hingeht. Um das aber erreichen zu können, muss man den kompletten Organismus nachbilden, nicht nur das Gehirn, weil wir als Mensch auch mit unserer Haut, mit unserem Bauch, also wir treffen wirklich auch im buchstäblichen Sinne des Wortes aus dem Bauch heraus Entscheidungen durch die Gene, durch die Hormone und all diese Dinge müssten nachgebildet werden, um sowas mal erreichen zu können. Und darauf wird es dann eben ankommen bei solchen Dingen.
And at Hanson Robotics, we're questing to put in place the architecture, tools, and platform for investigating in this area. The most human-like platform with physiology simulation, a robust architecture that's integrated with many of the latest cognitive and perceptual models and frameworks in the world, all the standard platforms, with a physical embodiment, with a robot that has hands, arms, mobility, package of sensors. So we're not the only platform, but adding the social countenance then allows this kind of platform to be used in research for more human-like computing and deployment in these kinds of service applications where we want to communicate with people on human terms. It also requires then going past the engineering and the science and involving the arts, because right now the science of nonverbal communications can't allow us to achieve something like a Michelangelo sculpture or your favorite computer animated cinema or video game. Artists get involved to solve these complex problems of social cognition and aesthetics. So bringing this kind of interdisciplinary team together to transform this kind of platform into something that people really emotionally respond to then allows these kinds of whole organism agents to go through a childhood to achieve cognitive adulthood within our lifetimes, I hope.
Also da wäre es ziemlich wichtig, dass dann auch der Roboter zum Beispiel eben die Kindheit durchmacht und sich dann entwickeln kann selber. Da arbeiten sie zum Beispiel bei Hanson Robotics, aber auch bei anderen Unternehmen zusammen und arbeiten daran eben, dass man das schafft, weil irgendwann zum Beispiel wäre es dann vielleicht auch möglich, dass ein Roboter ein Michelangelo eine Büste erstellen kann oder irgendwelche ähnlichen Dinge und darauf wird es ankommen, aber da ist eben viel Arbeit nötig und da muss man eben viel zusammenarbeiten, ist interdisziplinär, Hand in Hand, um das dann erreichen zu können. Es bleibt auf jeden Fall spannend. Ich sage Dankeschön, thank you very much for your time and have fun in Bayreuth. Thanks. Dankeschön.